Bonjour à tous. Good morning, SymfonyCon. How are you today? All right, sorry, I couldn't hear very well. How are you today, SymfonyCon? Oh, yeah, I get it. Low energy this morning. There was a party last night. I understand. We're still going to try and wake you up with our topic today. We're going to talk about work, which is something that you all do probably at least 7 hours a day, sometimes much, much more. And today we're going to debate whether remote work is the past, the present, or the future of work. So very happy to be with you. My name is Plais. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Platform.sh, and I'm delighted to share the stage here today with Caroline, who's our Chief People Officer. Platform.sh today is a company of 310 people. They are located as a work from home by default in 35 countries. We have 43 nationalities on board. And when we decided to launch the company back in 2015, we made a bold decision, which was to start as a remote-first company, international and remote. And quite frankly, at the time, this was not mainstream. With the pandemic, we think that it's very common. It was not back in 2015. And when we made that decision, we had a lot of business people around us tell us that at the best case, we were very bold. At the worst case, we were completely nuts to try and scale a company like this because it was not going to work. And to share an anecdote with you, in the early days, we were trying to raise money. And I was talking with a VC, an investor. And he was telling me, look, Fred, your company makes a lot of sense. What you're doing is meaningful. It makes sense. I like the team. But I'm going to pass on the opportunity of investing on the company because I don't believe remote can scale. And so, not for me. So obviously, I was disappointed with that decision. And 4 years later, when the same person called me to ask me advice on how to help his companies to actually get overnight remote, with the pandemic, we all had to do it, and some had to do it very, very quickly. I found it fairly ironic and fun. But since, at the time, it was really just very, very uncommon. And quite frankly, the only reason why my co-founders and I, Damien and Ori, decided to make that move to a remote-first company was open source. We had seen, because we had been navigating in open source communities, we had seen that very clearly open source managed to attract the best talents out there, for one, get them to work on very meaningful things, and build amazing pieces of code and amazing experiences. And so we thought there was a way. We thought it's actually doable. We've seen it work. And just to illustrate that, and again to try and wake you up as well a little bit, because Friday morning again, I'm going to ask all of you who have contributed to Symfony using those tools here, so Track, Subversion, and IRC, to stand up if you've done that. Please stand up so we just have an idea on the room who has been contributing to Symfony using those tools here. All right, thank you very much. So quite a few. And for the younger in the room, these are the ancestors of Git, GitHub, and Slack. So you see that all the people that actually did stand up earlier, they started contributing to Symfony before 2009, so not exactly yesterday. They were already remote. They were already doing a lot of great things. The first, I'm looking at Fabien here, but the first GitHub pull request, I think, was 2009, correct? So it's been there for a while. And while it's been there for a while, when we look at the news today, we see all those mandate back to the office happening. Amazon, Meta, Apple. This is interesting. The Nebraska Examiner, the state of Nebraska, Apple, Roblox, Zoom. One of the most iconic companies in remote world has decided to also go back to the office. So, why is that happening? Why are those people thinking the remote situation that actually they thrived in COVID sometimes during COVID is not working anymore? Well, there's some research about it, and actually the first interesting point is this is happening for real. It's not just an in the news. This is happening for real. 37 of the households in the US back last year, actually a year ago only, had at least one person operating in a remote setup. 2023, so just 1 year after, a third of decrease. It's only 26%, and it's actually keeps on declining. So it's really a big trend, not just in the news. It's actually really happening. So why is that? Again, research. We learned that there's really 3 things that are actually pointed out by CEOs and HR executives on why people want their teams back to the office. The first one is a presumed decrease in productivity, which when I read that, I'm always thinking this is weird, because really, I mean, people working from home, they're in a quiet place, they're able to concentrate, and they don't have to do that commute in the morning, and so there's a ton of more free time that lets them be actually more productive. So still very shocked by this number 1 argument. The second one is it hurts the company culture. Okay, and teams are more siloed. Okay, all right, fair points. These are the official reasons. I think there's a lot of unofficial reasons that are not easy to communicate, but I think people don't lack of trust. They don't trust their teams in the first place, and that's one thing. If you can't operate remote if you don't trust your team, it just doesn't work. So trust is a key word, and I think that's a very, very strong unofficial reason of why that is, and why people want to be able to look over their back if they're going Instagram or if they're actually working. The second one is there's definitely a lack of know-how, and quite frankly, this is hard. I think going remote is a very, very demanding setup for a company. It's probably much harder than having everybody in the office. You need to be organized. You need to be able to write a lot of things. You need to set up rules. You need to have more process. This is very demanding. And the last one is nostalgia, the good old times. Not all executives are that young anymore. Some are not that agile anymore. Human nature doesn't like change. And this is change. And it's this old time where everybody was in the office was so great. And so I think that plays, the emotional part of that plays a huge amount of, it's a big deal. And so I think that's why also we struggle with mandates to the office. So we said it's hard, and we want to look up to the people that do it well. And so 18 years of Symfony, 3,572 contributors. That was a week back. I'm sure it's even more now. Contributors to the code. So this is happening. We're here for that. Very impressed with what the company can deliver. And we thought it's a good idea to look at the top 30 contributors that are on this list right here, and try to understand better how they do remote.
Thank you, Fred. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be with you today. So when we talk about geography, just for you to know, the top 30 contributors of Symfony lived in 22 different cities and 12 different countries. So that's quite, across the world. And so I was also impressed by how long this community has worked in remote together. And so we thought it was interesting to ask some of the Symfony contributors, about their remote experience in an open community, but also more broadly in their remote experience. So I'm going to share with you a small video and some extracts.
I think successful collaboration in this kind of project works because everything is more or less asynchronous.
Open source communities do it well because all members of a community pursue the same common goal ahead of personal goals.
I feel another aspect is that everyone is remote. So because everyone is remote, I do not feel outsider as an outsider. I feel like I'm just part of a large community that encompass a lot of people from different countries.
I think remote work is so successful in this type of community that it allows individuals from around the world to contribute because working remotely has a decentralized approach.
Like the main reason why remote fits very well the context of open source and Symfony particularly is that it needs to have very different perspectives on the very different subjects.
Synchronous written communication also helps people to express themselves clearly and more sympathetically.
Open source communities provide valuable lessons, I think, for companies in fostering collaboration, innovation, and community engagement, like transparency and open communication. Like this helps trust between team members and encourage collaboration.
Very often there is some kind of implicit documentation that comes out of these conversations that you often don't have in in-person companies.
Companies can learn from Symfony in the sense that being transparent, over-communicating is very important as well.
But remoteness is not a problem there if you have a very motivated team.
For remote work, making asynchronous communication work is key. So not relying on getting instant answers, but sending out emails and accepting that you may get a reply only the next day, or that there's a delay between you writing a Slack message and someone reading it.
I like the most that I can accept projects all over Germany or all over Europe.
Being in remote is very useful for productivity, and it allows us to go faster where we already decided kind of to go.
One big advantage obviously is being able to hire people regardless of where they are. So it gives me personally the opportunity to hire talent that maybe isn't anywhere near an office that we typically wouldn't be able to hire because they don't want to relocate their entire family.
Also important in Belgium, we have very, very, very bad weather circumstances. So it's definitely a valid argument to stay cozy inside.
Right, this was the most effective argument, right? All right. So where we can learn from that, you've seen many examples and many great benefits of remote. I think the number one, it's by design, a good fit with the open source community ways of working. As long as you know how the web works, as long as you have a laptop, you can basically work from anywhere in the world, and you can get, the best talent across the world. Then it's flexible. That's very important nowadays. We want to have flexible hours. We want to contribute when we can and as we want. And also, as long as you, within the deadline, you don't have a fixed contributions because you know that someone else is going to pick it up, right? So it's quite agile. And the most important, it has the right setup, right? I think we understood that from Andreas, that having the right tools, the right asynchronous communication is really key. That's number one. Number two, you need to have, and that was really important, self-motivation. That was from Titran. What it means is that the contributors of Symfony are here because they're clear about why they're here. They're clear about the purpose, and they're sharing the same purpose. And so that drives, their engagement and their motivation. And that's something really important because it can apply to other type of organization when it comes to remote and work in general. Also something that was interesting is about productivity. We're hearing a lot that, working remotely is decreasing productivity. That's not what we're hearing. Actually, when you have to be quiet and focus, it's extremely effective. And by the way, it's apparently very efficient when you're based in Belgium, right? All right. We learned about how remote is working well with the Symfony open source community. We wanted to ask the same questions to a company that is fully remote, ours, and we especially focus on a recent team that actually work on this Upsun project you probably have heard about. In a few words, basically, it's the same PaaS that you know, but with much more flexibility and granularity. You're welcome to look at the website. This team is a fully distributed team across the world. You can see in blue and purple where they are located, and they are fully remote. And the challenge that they have, back in February, we had 38 team members from engineering, product, design. They had to work together in 8 months and deliver a better product. That was a challenge, when you are across the world and in fully remote. And so we asked them the same question.
When we started, really the only successful model we knew about working internationally and working with a very distributed team was open source community.
One thing that Platform.sh does really well is taking care of employees, making sure that they have regular one-on-one with their manager, regular calls with other people, making sure that they are not burned out, because that's the main issue when you're working remotely.
Being able to work with the best people for each problem set and not be dependent on location was an amazing gift to help us achieve Upsun in the short time frame that we had to do it. So remote gives us the ability to pick the best person in the best place to work on a problem, and not just the person who happens to be in the right location.
So when one team was actually finishing implementing something or finishing the discovery on the design front, the implementation could actually start throughout the rest of the day, because the US or in the Americas or in APAC, they were actually taking over the work that was already started. So the loop was kind of never ending.
Having good quality communication and communication tools was 100% one of the key factors to the success of Upsun.
For all of your team, how they feel, because you don't want people to get burned out because the deadlines are challenging or the work is being overwhelming.
You need to be able to clearly communicate what's going on to your team members who might be working in a different time zone.
I have a lot of feedback from other CEOs saying that, remote work doesn't work because people don't work enough when they are working at home. And my answer is always the same. It probably means that there is a trust issue. Or maybe just a reporting issue.
You need to trust your team members. You need to trust that they're reading your messages, that they're understanding what you're saying, that you're on the same page, and that they will deliver as they have promised to deliver.
I think fostering relationships with the people you work with is key to having healthy working relationships, so you can develop trust, rapport, respect, and obviously communication.
What really has worked for me is having dedicated space so that I can turn off from work at the end of the day.
First, to set up all the tools and the processes that allow you to collaborate efficiently with distributed people. For example, writing down everything, communicating very clearly, using low context communication framework, for example, trusting your peers to deliver, stop micromanaging your direct reports, a bunch of things like that. And second, you need to accept that working asynchronously means that it's going to take more time, because there are contributors from many different time zones, and the decision process have to be inclusive of their schedules. So it's going to take more time, but it's going to be valuable in the long run.
Like with workshops or with getting together for a coffee chat, or even I think having more one-on-ones with people outside of your team that you wouldn't necessarily get to meet.
Get dressed every day. Like, it sounds like really basic and fundamental, but getting dressed sets the tone.
All right. We like to finish with jokes, right? Okay, so what we can learn from, from our teams. Number one, you need to be super intentional with collaboration. So what we've tried with this project is the team, and especially the leader, they were trying to solve the conflict up front, because we know between design, product, engineer, it can happen sometime, natural tension, right? So it was really important. Number two, it's a no-brainer, but you need to be super clear in your objective, timeline, deadlines, and probably more than an average company. You need to use and reuse extensively asynchronous communication. And as some of them were mentioning, and you need to check it was well understood. You need to use extensively tools for sure. And also one competitive advantage that we saw is that you can get the best person from everywhere in the world. You're not constrained by having the most knowledgeable person in your country or locally. So that was clearly something that was more predictive for us. And also the follow the sun. Of course, you need to be having the right setup again and make sure that you're inclusive. But as long as you have that, it can be really productive, because when a team has finished some part of the project, the other team in another time zone can take it over. So what we also wanted to share more extensively is Platform.sh has now 8 years of remote experience. And we had time to learn, fail, get successful, and still have some challenges. And we thought it was interesting to share them. There are two components of our secret sauce, Belgium secret sauce. One is healthy fundamentals, right? Again and again, you need to trust your people. It was interesting to see in a recent Greenhouse report about the CEO that are mandating return to the office, that 42% of those companies now are facing higher turnover and lower engagement, all right? Number two is it's true that starting from the start to work remotely help us to be better and to set the right, again, setup from the start. And thirdly, you need to be clear and transparent. You need to over-communicate. That's quite demanding, but that's really important. The second component is you need to be intentional. It's super hard to be in a company where you're fully remote on all the work-life facets, because you don't have the coffee machine, you don't have the lunchtime to catch up or be spontaneous about what's going on. So the number one is you need to have strong culture and sense of belonging routines. So for example, a manager at Platform need to think through, need to anticipate how they're going to work on the team cohesion. Do I want to have daily checking? Do I want to have fun every month? How I'm going to manage my in-person gathering? You need to be really intentional. Number two is the management relationship. As Fabien mentioned, it's super important to check in on your people, because again, you cannot see, or you cannot have the luxury to see them all the day. So when you have one-to-one, or when you have conversation, you need to ask questions about personal life to see if everything is fine. And actually, we were quite proud, because 2 months ago, we ran a management feedback survey where basically our employee had to give upward feedback to our managers. And the number one strength was that our managers were caring about about them. So for us, that's definitely a key success factor of our fully remote organization. Number three, it's the same thing, but you need also to have a supportive organization. One of our key values is we care for each other, but what it means at Platform.sh is we want first to receive help and get help easily, and provide help as well. That's very important, because you need to make sure your employees feel secure on a day-to-day when you're isolated in your desk or in your house. If you know that someone is going to help you, that's extremely securing for us. So supportive organization is key. And the last part is effective communication. We do all the time, for example, recording our meetings, because we believe that somebody was not here or in a different time zone, so we have this habit of doing it. Something we do also is we have a lot of written communication, maybe too much, but at least we have a lot of tools and sharing information like Guru or Miro. Discord, Slack, all those tools help us to have effective communication. Now, in these 8 years of experience working remotely, we also faced some challenges, and we still have some challenges. And I believe we can extend those challenges to any company that works remotely. Number one is super demanding on the fundamentals. And you've seen the fundamentals we're talking about. We're talking about culture, we're talking about information sharing, communication. That's super hard to do, and honestly, we're not perfect there. And for example, we know we need to improve our feedback culture and how you are providing feedback in a remote organization. The second aspect that we see as a challenge is the generational diversity. When you are fully remote, integrating and onboarding junior profile is actually complicated because they don't have the level of autonomy you want them to have at first, and it takes much longer, at least for now, to onboard them. So that's something we haven't completely cracked yet. And for employees, I think there's 3 components. One is you need to have a high level of autonomy, and you need to know yourself well to know that maybe you don't have this level of autonomy. The second thing is the mental health risk. You need to be super intentional about your social daily routines. And you can have any type of routine. When I'm hearing from our employees, there are some that will have sport activity, some that would have their child, or some that will simply having game activities, or dressed up properly, or having a dedicated space in your house to work. So everybody has his own thing, but it's important to have your tips. It's really great. And the last thing that we recently experienced, and it was a great learning for us, we unfortunately had this year to freeze our travel and expenses. So for 1 year, actually our employees couldn't see each other. And I can tell you it was so damaging on the team morale. And so we realized that even if you're a full remote company, you need to have a minimum of in-person gathering. And that's big learning for us, and I guess for other companies. So more broadly, we predict, because that was the question at the beginning, we predict that remote and hybrid model have a great future. Why? Because it's a win-win for companies. We're still in a labor shortage, by the way. So tapping into a larger international talent pool is critical, and is definitely a great competitive advantage when you're remote. We're challenging the productivity debate because we don't believe, or we're not sure that the productivity is actually lower. I think we just don't measure the same thing. It's true that you need to have, again, the right setup. You need to have some in-person gathering. But we don't believe the innovation is different because, again, we probably have more diverse point of view, by the way, in the way we approach things. And if you're taking into account that the transportation, or the fact that, for example, in a headquarters in New York, you need to pay $16,000 a year just to have an employee in your office, you can actually challenge this productivity ratio. The third point is it's easier for us to attract more diverse and to be more inclusive. For example, it's easier for us to have people with disabilities, for example. That's very important. Number 4, it's better for the climate. Not going to comment on that, you know why. And it can also reduce the employee attrition, because we've seen recently that actually when you have mandated RTO, you are actually having a higher turnover. And we think also it's a win-win for employees. And again, I'm talking about fully remote and hybrid model. You can have a flexible work location, and that's, I can tell you, after pay and promotion, that's the main criteria that candidates are asking us. It's a standard for younger generations. I mean, this generation entered the workforce when we had COVID. And so coming back on this way of working for them is really strange. And lastly, and that's very important, we strongly believe that it provides a better quality of life. The meaning of work, and I would say the centrality of work today, is shifting. You know, we don't want to just have work in our life. We want to leave our patients, we want to take care of our child, we want to take care of our elder people. We have all kind of reasons not to put the center, and not talking about EA, you know, that was going to definitely change the way we're working. We need to have a shift in how we are placing work today, and remote work is enable our employees, at least, and we believe everyone, to have this flexibility and have more quality of life, because you have work-life balance and you have time to do other things. And now,
so yeah, the news again. So interestingly, after the big trend of mandates to go back to the office, we're seeing some backlash that are fairly severe. I think all of this came in the winter of tech in 23. And all the CEOs that were managing a return to the office were also thinking, if I'm getting a little bit of attrition, it's not going to be a big deal. It's part of the things I need to do as a company. So I think they went far and strong, and there's a huge backlash right now. Research again, the greenhouse research, which is really interesting. I encourage you to take a look at it if you're interested in the topic. Shows that 76% of employees to which their company tells them that they want to pull the plug on remote are ready to jump ships. 75%. Massive risk for most companies. That's not the only thing. Today, there's also a very interesting stat that shows that a remote position advertised on an ad job post is actually 3 times more attractive. So there's only 3 times more applicants for a company, a position that actually is offered as a remote position. So it's not only hurting this mandate to the office, not only hurting the quality of the relationship they have with their employees, it's also jeopardizing their ability to recruit in the future and their employer brand. So it's a big, big deal. And it's already time for the final word. But what we want to say is, we're not here to make a broad statement. We don't think that remote is universally good or universally bad. It's not. There's nothing like a one fits all, or it's rather one fits none. So we're all smart enough to know that depending on plenty of circumstances, it can or cannot work. However, we think that the learning has been that that top-down decision of going back to the office has been very brutal. And should have probably been much more measured. And I think the learning for everybody here is really the fact that the right way to approach this is a team-driven approach. So asking the teams what they think is right for them, what's going to get them in the best condition to actually thrill and deliver good work and just have a better work and personal life is the winner. And we want to leave you on those thoughts. And thank you very much for your very kind attention.